Hi, this is Bill Hitchcock, and this is the third part of our initial work with some databases. We set up a Microsoft Access database back on the first video clip. Then we added a table to it. On the next one, what we ended up doing is we created another table. We related the two, and just kind of got a general feel about how you go about creating both metadata and the data itself. So I've gotten a bit more work done since that time, and without having to kind of go through all the steps, I just want to kind of walk you through a little bit what we've gotten accomplished so far. So I've got my NBA database opened up here, and from before, I'm going to just double click on the conference, and you can see that we had a conference code, E and W, and the conference name itself, the Eastern and Western Conference. Within conferences, we've got the different divisions. So the Atlantic, the Central, and the Southeast are all part of the Eastern Conference, and the Northwest, Pacific, and Southwest are part of the Western Conference. And I think the last time we had also started working on the team table, and this one probably looks a lot different than where we left it off last time. I've spent some time entering in some data, and again, it doesn't take forever. If you want, all I did is I went out to Google and went to Wikipedia, typed in NBA space wiki, and pulled up the Wikipedia page. And I'm just going to scroll way up to the top of it. Just going to show you what that is. All right, so here's the National Basketball Association. And as I scroll down through this, they've got a list of all the teams, the city and state that they are associated with, the arena, and so on. So I just kind of copied in a lot of this data and put that in. Now, if you really want, you could try to just copy and paste it and, do what sometimes it works all right, sometimes it doesn't. I found, by the time I spent a lot of time trying to copy and paste everything, it's probably just as well just to retype some of the things. And plus, it's good practice for me to do that. So let me get back to our database. So that's what this information is here. So I'm going to close these tables up, and I'll show you kind of another view of all of this. I've added in a few extra tables. I added in the arena table, one for countries, and granted there's only two countries, the US and Canada, that the NBA operates in so far. We've got, let's see, I'll open up the arena table. You can see here's all the different arenas. And for the arena table, I used an auto number for the primary key on these, just assuming that, as I enter these things in, there's not a real great shortcut code or something for a lot of these arenas, because in fact, the arena names often change depending on corporate sponsorships and so on. I've got a state province table. So, and I ended up putting in both all the states and provinces that the NBA plays and started with that. And then I said, I want to just get in all the extra information about these. And I also included a time zone table. So that way, if we ever decide to do something more in terms of, games and so on, or find out, how far behind are the West Coast teams from the East Coast teams and so on, we've got that with our time zones, and we have that information. So we'll close up these tables. Go to Database Tools. Go to Relationships. And we've got the conference, the division, and the team. So I need to add in some of those different tables to see how are they connected and how do we want to structure our database. So let's go to Show Table, and I'll choose Arena. I want the country. I want the state, province, and the time zone. And I think, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tables that I've got. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's all my tables. And you can see there's a whole bunch of lines kind of going back and forth, and it's a bit of a jumbled mess. So let's see if we can kind of straighten out some of this stuff. All right, it looks like we've got the country code. That's connected with my states. So I'm going to take the country and just kind of keep that off to the right-hand side. Let's grab the state and province and pull that over here. And just by doing that, suddenly these lines don't look quite so bad anymore. And you can see how things are going to be working. So for instance, if I want to find out a team, say the Milwaukee Bucks, for example, if I look in here, I've got the team code, the location, which is Milwaukee, the name, it would be Bucks, arena is the Fiserv Forum, the capacity is 18,000 roughly, the year it was founded, when it joined the NBA, the mascot, and the division, but I don't know what state it's in. But in essence, I do know what state it is because I know where they play. Here's the arena. I can trace that to the arena, which happens to have the state and province, which is connected to the state and province table. So by traversing these different paths, that's how you can connect all this data together. So we could even do a query or a question to find out in the Eastern Division what states are represented. And, you know, as long as we've got these connections, we can go through that path and answer those kinds of questions. All right. On these two relationships, you can see I've got this one to infinity or one to many relationship that's enforced. So therefore, the divisions have to adhere to a conference that actually exists. So I want to do the same thing with some of these other relationships. And usually I would say don't do this until after you've entered in some data to kind of test some things out. You know, the main thing that you always want to look for is what's kind of the biggest thing that you have. You know, so for instance, country is, you know, in terms of just geographies and bigness, if you will, it's the biggest thing. The size of Canada, the size of the United States. So I'll enter in the data for that first, and then establish this link between that and the states and province. That way I don't start entering in some arenas and type in a state that doesn't exist yet in my state and province data. I want to make sure that I populate all the data in there first. So let's double click on one of these lines. And I can enforce referential integrity, cascade update related fields, hit OK, and looks like everything's good there. Here's my time zones. Let's try that one. See if I have good time zones. That seems like that's working. And if you get an error, then it's just a matter of going in, double checking your data to find out where the error happens to be, and then you can come back here and fix it. So far it looks like all these are working well. Cross our fingers. The last one works as well. And we've got that done. So that's something that you should do with all your databases once you've kind of create the tables, enforce referential integrity between them, and you know, all that good stuff that we want to do. So I'm going to close this up. I want to save those changes. And let's try something. For instance, the state and province table. Let's open that one up. And let's change the view to design view. And notice when we look at this one in design view, you can see I've got a prefix, state, province, STPR, and then the field name, abbreviation. They're all in camel case, so I did that uppercase, lowercase thing. You could see the data types. All of these happen to be short text in this case. I've got a description on all of them, primary key, non-key fields, foreign keys, and we've got our three main key types there. And you also want to check through on the data types, check the field size, see if you can add a format or not, and put in a caption. So I'm just going to go through these. Here's the field size is 25, state and province, that looks fine. State capital, I set that one at 30. I've got capital city put in for a caption. The country code that's where I did the lookup wizard. Now I don't want to do that here because it's already connected. So you don't have to do it twice. Trust me, it's all right. That one's done. But if for some reason you have to make a change, then what you have to do is go back to Database Tools, and we can try that in a second. Let's close this. We'll go back to Database Tools, open up the relationships, choose the relationship between country and state and province. If I click on that and hit delete, it says, do you want to permanently delete this? Yes, I do. And now that relationship's gone. So I can close this up, go back to state and province, change the view, make it design view, come down here for the country, choose the lookup wizard, walk through my steps. I'm going to look this up in the country table. I want just the code and the name. I really don't need the capital city in this case. I'm going to make this ascending by the primary key, the country code, especially since that's a text-based code, so that'll work. I want to uncheck this hide key column, narrow up my columns, and then widen them back out. Hit next. This is what it's going to store. It's going to store the country code. Hit next. Don't want to check anything here. Leave the field name, that's fine. Hit finish. Says it wants to save it. I'll hit yes. And let's try viewing this. And here we go. I've got AB for Alberta. Capital city of Alberta, we could look that up and find out what it is. And then for the country, I can either choose either Canada or the United States. And we've got that bit of information. So let's go back to view, design view. We'll look at the state, province, time zone. This, again, I just used the lookup wizard to put that in. So if we try to change the lookup wizard, this is where you get that error and says, no, sorry, it's already part of a relationship. If you want to change this data type, you first have to delete the relationship. So that's the error that you'll get if you try to change one of these things. So, all right, let's save this table. Let's go to the time zone, check it out. There's the different time zones that you can see. So Alberta happens to be in the mountain time zone, and we've got that. So, spend some time, do a little bit of work, do some data entry. I've got some of this in here. I should probably widen this one out. I didn't put in all the time zones. For example, Newfoundland and Labrador is, I think, like the Atlantic time zone or something like that. So some of the eastern Canadian provinces are on different time zones, just like Alaska and Hawaii are farther west than the Pacific time zone. You'd have to add that into your table first before you can select something. All right. So save that. Yes, I want to save this. Everything looks good there. So let's see. That's the state and province table. I think we looked at the country table already. Let's look at our time zone table. And let's look at this in design view. So if nothing else, you could take a screenshot of some of these things. And when you're trying to set up your own database, there you go. There's the criteria that we have set up here. And you can check how big some of these fields are. 25, I've got the captions in. There's the offset. And here's the change from Greenwich Mean Time. So we've got that in there as well. All right, last one, I should probably take a look at the arena. I don't remember if I don't think I went through in design view on the arena. So let's just check this one here. Again, I've got descriptions listed here. You can see what the primary key is. Here's a case where I'm using the auto number for that. The arena name is 40. I set it at 40 characters. It's got a caption in there. The city, I just set it 25 characters. Again, you can always go back and adjust it if you need it a little bit bigger. The arena, state, and province, notice that that's a foreign key. So we did the lookup wizard to be able to retrieve that from the state and province table. And finally, I put in a structure. If you look at all of the names, you know, we've got like the TD Garden, Barclays Center, here's a garden, here's a center, here's an arena, here's a center, here's a field house with a capital H, this is a field house with a lowercase h, and so on. We've got all these different things, and if we wanted to see how many of these are gardens, how many are centers, how many are of arenas, and so on, you can add in an extra field just to keep track of that. So that's what I did with that last field here for the short text. I just set it at 25 characters and had a caption of structure on there, so that should work for you. All right, so that's basically all the tables that you need to have set up. Talks a little bit about doing the relationships in between them, so that should be enough really to get your homework done as far as setting some of those things up. We've got the forms. Let's just run through one last form. I've got the teams by division. Let's do, let's try doing state and province. So I'll highlight state and province, create a form, and it's got the state and province here, and it, because I had a relationship between state and province in the arenas, it's going to list the arenas for each one as well. So let's clean this up at the top. We'll say state or province, and we can close this form. It will ask us to save it, and I'll say it's the state or province form, and we've got that done. You could click once on country and create a form there. So let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. Drag that down a bit. So there's Canada, and we can see all the 13 provinces in Canada. So let's, hang on before I save this. I'm going to put, country is fine. So let's save this one. And our form name, country or country form is fine. We've got that in here. So now when I run one of those, we could take a look. Here's Canada. There's the United States. I can scroll through and see all my states within that. So, you know, chances are you're not going to want to add more states in here, but when you're doing your initial data entry, this might be a good way of handling some of that. Or likewise, if you were going to do something with the capital cities, you could come into the form here and just go right down the line and type in the capital cities for each one of these states, and you'll be all set with that. All right, we'll close that up, and that takes care of most of what we need to do. Next bunch of video clips, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating some reports. We'll be doing more advanced queries, and I guess really I've done enough with forms, so I probably don't have to do too much more with that. So I hope this helps you out. Good luck with it, and take care.